Virginia Roots, A Journey into Appalachian Music, was produced in partnership with the Virginia Department of Education to help school music teachers help their students understand the music of Appalachia and to incorporate bluegrass and old-time music into the curriculum. Lesson plans to accompany the video are available on GoOpenVA, the state's online repository of educational resources.
This is Virginia Roots, A Journey into Appalachian Music. The instruments used in Appalachia are in many ways the same ones used in bands and orchestras. A violin is called a fiddle in traditional music, but other than that, it's the same, as are the guitar and the upright bass. The instrument that might be most associated with mountain music is the banjo. To help us learn more about the banjo, we traveled to Fries, Virginia to talk to Jim Lloyd, Program Director of Junior Appalachian Musicians, and Lincoln Hensley of the Tennessee Bluegrass Band.
The banjo had origins in Africa. When they first came over to the United States, they were a gourd type of instrument like this. This was recovered out of a log cabin in Loudoun County, Virginia, and this is a very good example of some of the first banjo type of instruments. By the 1840s, a fellow named William Boucher up in Baltimore, Maryland was making these. This is in 1845. They had dropped the gourd and put a drum body on it. And by then, it had developed into a 5-string instrument. Then by the 1890s, 1900, there were loads of banjo manufacturers. This is an 1890s line in Healy, and it's developed more into what we would call a modern look. By the mid-1920s, Gibson came up with this design, and this is a 1928. And they've continued to evolve. Lincoln's is a 5-year-old banjo now.
That's right.
2019, so there's different features on each one of these.
Throughout the years, there's been a lot of different modifications to the banjo, and everybody's tried different ways to improve on the things that the banjo can play. And one of the ways that they tried to do that, in the 50s, Earl Scruggs come up with a thing called a detuner, which enabled the banjo player to change the pitch of a string consistently during the middle of the song. This one was designed by the late Sonny Osborne, and it works kind of like this. And you can do many different things with it. You can hold chimes and bring it up. You get kind of pedal steel sounds.
Being in tune in a major jam session or a band or even solo is really important. So we're going to talk about that for a minute. As you can tell, me and Lincoln are not in tune. So Lincoln's out of tune. So there are different ways to tune an instrument. Any of the instruments, this applies to all of them. You can try to tune it by ear and get pretty close. You can use an electronic device to tune it, which most people do use now. You can also tune with another instrument, a piano or a guitar, or you can use a pitch pipe or even a tuning fork.
I will say there have been some pretty major advancements in the electronic tuner these days. This one here that I have fitted on my banjo actually hides pretty good behind the peg head, so they make them where they're pretty small now.
When the banjo came over from Africa, they played with a downward movement, which was called knocking, rapping, or frailing. Now it's referred to as clawhammer. Lincoln plays the more modern way, the origins of bluegrass, which was Earl Scruggs and Snuffy Jenkins and some guys like that. So we're going to demonstrate the differences. We're going to play a song that's about 600 years old, actually. I'm going to play the clawhammer, and Lincoln's going to play the bluegrass. Soldier's Joy. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Appalachian songs are usually learned knee to knee, which means we learn them by playing with others and not by reading music on a page. This sounds harder than it really is because most songs are constructed in the same way. In this video, we're going to learn a traditional song and you can play along. The notes and chords are simple, and each musician has a part to play.
When we learn a traditional song like Cripple Creek, first we have to think about what key we're in. And in Cripple Creek, we're in the key of A. And this song starts with his third finger on the E string, right here. And we also like to think of these songs in sentences, and we learn a sentence and then we put these different sentences together to make a complete song. So that's what we're going to do now. Can you play the first sentence of Cripple Creek? Play it slowly for us. Okay, now play the second sentence. And the first sentence again. Second sentence. And that's the whole first part of the song. We call that the A part. Now we're going to move on to the B part of the song. Can you play the first sentence of the B part? And play the second sentence now. Play the first sentence again. And the second sentence. And that's what we call the B part of the song. This song has an A part and a B part. And you have just played the sentences for the A part and the sentences for the B part. Can you play all of them together to make the complete song? Let's hear that. B part. Okay, now once we've learned the entire song, we've put all of our sentences together, then you can try to go a little bit faster and you can add in some fancy rhythm with your bow or some different things you can do with your fingers. Can you show us how you would play it in a little bit fancier style? And that's how you play Cripple Creek on the fiddle. So now let's look at the guitar part for the song Cripple Creek. We're in the key of A, and Maggie's going to be playing her guitar out of a G position, which means she has to use a capo, and we put her capo on the second fret of the guitar. So when she plays a G chord, can you play a G chord for us? It's the A chord that fits our song, and she'll be able to play with our fiddler. So in the A part of Cripple Creek, we had those sentences that we learned. What are the chords that match that? We're going to do a G position chord, and then we're going to go to a C position, and then back to a G, and then go to a D chord, and then back to a G. That's the A part, right? Can you play the rhythm like that? Like it would match the fiddle part. Ready? Go. Da 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 da. So that's your sentence, okay? Now the B part is a little bit different, right? We only have the G position chord, and then we move to a D position chord, okay? So let's do the B part together. Start with your G position chord. Ready? Go. Da 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 da. And there you have all the sentences with the guitar rhythm. Now we're going to add the banjo to the song Cripple Creek. And the banjo is really interesting. Look what he has on his fingers. He has these metal finger picks because when he plays the banjo, it's not like a guitar where he strums straight up and down. he uses his fingers like this in a rolling motion. Can you roll on your banjo and show us what a roll is? Okay. Can you play slowly the first sentence of Cripple Creek? Let's hear the first one. Okay, now play the second one of the A part. Okay, now play the first one again. And the second one. Now to the B part. Can you play the first sentence of the B part? And the second sentence. Those are all the sentences in our song Cripple Creek. So go back to the beginning and let's play the A part and the B part completely, still in our simple version, okay? If you don't know what this instrument is, it's called a mandolin. And do you know what the great thing about a mandolin is? It has the same strings as a fiddle. So if you can play the fiddle, your fingers would know what to do on the mandolin as well. I'm going to let Samuel play Cripple Creek in the sentences that we learned, just like Silas did for his fiddle. And I bet you'll recognize how it sounds. They're going to sound very similar. Can you play the first sentence of Cripple Creek? Okay, play the second sentence. And the first sentence again. Second sentence. And now the B part. And the second sentence. All right, now put all the sentences together. Not fancy yet. Play it still simple for us, okay? And the B part. Didn't that sound familiar? That sounds like the fiddle part. Let's see what you're using here. Instead of a bow, he's using a pick, and it gives it a different sound, even though the notes are going to be the same. Let me tell you one more thing about what the mandolin does when we're playing a song together with other instruments. The fiddle typically plays the notes all throughout the song, and the mandolin, he can do rhythm just like a guitar can. Can you show us a little bit of what rhythm looks like on the mandolin? Kind of got a little choppy sound to it. And now we have the biggest instrument of our combo. We have a bass. Doesn't it look familiar though? It looks like a fiddle, just a really big fiddle. And these strings are huge. Can you play on those big strings for us? What does it sound like? Whoa, it has a deep sound, much deeper than the fiddle. And the bass serves as another rhythm instrument with the guitar. So he only plays a few notes. Okay? Can you play through the A part of Cripple Creek? I was singing it in my head. I bet you can hear how it fits with the song Cripple Creek. Can you do the B part? Ready? Go. Da 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 da. So he's the bass and he provides that great rhythm for us. Now let's bring back all of our instruments and see how they all fit together.
all listen to recorded music, whether on the radio, online, or using older technology like a record player. Have you ever wondered about the history of making records? Bristol is a city in far southwest Virginia, right on the border with Tennessee. In fact, the state line runs right down the middle of State Street. On one side, it's Virginia, and on the other, it's Tennessee. Bristol played a key role in Appalachian music history and is home to what's often called the Big Bang of country music. We visited the Birthplace of Country Music Museum and spoke to head curator Dr. Renee Rogers to learn more about what happened there in 1927 and how technology played a role in it.
The museum is in Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia, because this is where the 1927 Bristol sessions took place, and those are integral recording sessions that happened that really sort of jump-started early commercial country music. A recording producer from the Victor Talking Machine Company, a man named Ralph Peer, came here in 1927 specifically to look for what was then called hillbilly music. So that was old-time traditional, what we would call the beginnings of country music. This was sort of a new thing to go out of the major studios in New York or the bigger cities, and part of that was due to a change in technology that made that possible. But coming here meant that they could actually record multiple artists at the same time over a 2-week period, and in the end, he got 76 different songs recorded by 19 different acts, 69 of which ended up being released on record. 2 of those artists had never been recorded before, and they are foundational to the whole history of country music since then. One is the Carter family. They were from just up the road in Mesa Spring, Virginia. And then the second artist that recorded here that had never been recorded before was Jimmie Rodgers. And he, immediately his career took off, just skyrocketed him to stardom. So having artists like that record here for the very first time, but then having a whole bunch of other artists, including Stoneman, who was already a very popular hillbilly artist, do more recordings here, and then artists that had never been recorded before, just meant that there was a huge, wide range of really amazing songs that came out of the Bristol sessions. When we talk about Bristol and its importance, we talk about this perfect storm of events that happened around 1927. I mentioned Jimmie Rodgers and the Carter family, but another one was the technology, the fact that the acoustic horn technology, which is what had been being used previously, had given way to the electric microphone technology right around 1925, 1926. The acoustic horn basically looks like a huge megaphone. They could be about 6 feet long. They did their job, but it wasn't very portable. So when you got the electric microphone, the portability meant that it was easier to go out for these location recording sessions. You still had to take a huge amount of equipment with you. Don't get me wrong, that's again a great reason why Bristol being on a train line was helpful. But the actual recording technology itself of that microphone was smaller, and it caught sound better. So that meant that when you had, say, a string band, multiple musicians in front of that microphone, the directional capabilities of capturing sound meant that the resulting recording was going to be more nuanced, more balanced, more vibrant. It also meant that certain instruments that tended to be sort of drowned out in string bands with the acoustic horn technology, for instance, the guitar was often drowned out by the sounds of the fiddle and the banjo. It meant that it captured the sound of all the instruments better. So you just ended up getting a better recording. Better recordings sell better. And what's interesting is there weren't music stores back in the 1920s and 30s. You bought your records, you bought your playback machines, whether that be a radio that you're going to listen to the radio station, or it's going to be a record or a cylinder player. You bought those at furniture stores 9 times out of 10. And they went from being pieces of furniture that might be about this big to being something that you could carry. So again, making these things more portable made them more affordable and meant that you could take them with you. You weren't just having them in your living room where that was the only place you were going to listen to them. So you were seeing that same sort of change from bigger equipment to smaller equipment, and that portability and affordability changing at the same time for playback machines. Technology is always evolving. It's always changing. Technology will fill the void. Like people, an entrepreneur or an inventor will find a way to improve on old technology or change it in some way. And that's certainly happened since the time of the 1920s compared to carrying around on your phone today. Records are becoming trendy again. People want to collect records. They want to have a record player and listen to things on vinyl. But also, you have the internet, where people aren't having to wait necessarily for a music label to pick them up before they can share their music with the population. So I think there's this continuing desire to share music and to make it like accessible to the public. Live music is still huge. Before the recording industry, that's how you listen to music in the 1800s. It was all live. It wasn't through the radio or a record. Live music is still huge. People still want to do that. So I think the connections are there still because people love to be moved and to listen to music.
One thing that's unique about old-time music is the role of the dancer. It might be called flat-footing, clogging, or buck dancing, but the common thread is that dancers are not just reacting to the band, they're providing percussion. We spoke with world-class percussive dancer Becky Hill and other traditional musicians to learn more.
The story of this dance in particular, and the story of tap dancing, they kind of go hand in hand, mimic sort of the complicated origins of our country. So we also have, like in this dance form, you have Native American, African American, and Scotch-Irish tradition. And we also have to credit like other European traditions or maybe other Latin American traditions that all filter in because we're an immigrant country.
Everybody in the whole interaction is the drummer, basically, right? Because you have the feet and you have just the rhythm of the string band music. There are no drums. Basically, like everything is the drums. When you really get, people call it getting in the groove, or like when the dancers and the band locks in, there's nothing like it because you're giving them energy, they're giving you the energy back, and it's just this really magical way to connect with the people in your community.
The Floyd Country Store, for instance, is such a great example because I feel like the role of that Floyd Country Store isn't about virtuosity. It isn't about like the most virtuosic performer getting out there and owning the space. It's about like one dancer kind of sidling up next to another dancer, and then they have like almost a little conversation on the dance floor, and they like might shuffle or do a little basic, and then they go over and move over to somebody else who's doing it, and then move over. And so like throughout the room during like the Friday night jamboree, people will dance with each other, and they're also sharing this really powerful unison of like shuffle, step, rock, step, shuffle, step, rock, step, like this down, up, down that's happening to especially that sort of Virginia style old time music, which is hard and fast and driving, and everyone's accenting the downbeat. So there's also this amazing like chemistry that happens. People aren't doing the exact same footwork, but they are accenting the same rhythms often. And so there's this like little dialogue that happens.
And I think that there is sometimes a perception that the musicians are playing for the dancer, and the dancer is kind of there to watch, and that the dancer is for show. And I really push back against that perspective on percussive dance, especially flat-foot or freestyle dancing. I really regard percussive dancers as a peer musician who's contributing an equal amount musically to what's happening.
One of my favorite tunes is called Sugar Babe, and the way Ben and I do it, it's like I actually ask me to do less. Like I'm not trying to fill up every single sound. I'm kind of like, well, what is the tune asking me to do? And like maybe the tune is just asking me to go like, you know, like very light, or maybe the fiddle tune is asking me to like hit everything really hard and dance the melody. And so when I think about percussive dance, I think about like, how can I dance like akin to a drum set, similar to a drum set, and I can accent or I can fill in at certain moments, or you know, as a really good drummer can push on the front edge of the beat or sit on the back edge of the beat or lay low or play like almost melodically. And I think that those are the options that I use as a dancer. And so percussive dance, you know, there's so many different ways of dancing in the world, and what I love about it is that there's a sonic resonance. Like I'm also making music and making musical choices. And so I think it's important just to recognize that it still exists, that it isn't something that's outdated or gone or a thing of the past. It's living and breathing and thriving today. And what I think is beautiful about it is it happens in these rural Appalachian communities, but it also happens in cities. It also happens in Tokyo and in Paris and wherever, right? It's it's here, but it also is something that people all over the world think are unique and is valuable. And I would say Appalachian traditions are one thing, but there's many little worlds of these kind of music and dance traditions throughout the country that are unique and worth celebrating.
Old-time music is different from bluegrass. It's often played by a large group of musicians sitting in a circle, listening to and learning from each other. And it's usually learned not by reading music, but by watching and playing along. Once you learn the basics, you can join in too.
Because it's kind of an oral tradition, both the music and the dance and the vocal traditions as well, like you get it from interaction, you get it from community, you get it from sitting across from somebody and eating a meal as equally as you get it from like dancing the corner at a square dance or sitting knee to knee playing a tune. It's about that like human connection, and that's what really draws me into it.
I think that playing music by ear is one of the essential defining elements of the old-time music tradition. And it allows for me this space of really kind of deep listening and deep communication between musicians and being able to just immediately hear something that another person in the circle is offering to you, and be able to offer a response, just like you would in verbal conversation.
You're playing to the room, and you're playing to each other in real time. And there's a magical thing that happens in string band music when people are listening and they're playing together and they're connecting in terms of the rhythm and the pitch. And the phrasing of the music. It's kind of like a language of its own. The rhythm section, which is primarily the bass, the guitar, and the banjo, we are the foundation of the thing. I'm not doing much on the bass. I'm going boom, 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 boom on the downbeats. It's like, if you were to think about it in terms of like modern electronic dance music, we're the four on the floor. You know, like if you're at the techno club, the boom, 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 that's us in fiddle and banjo music. And so a fiddler once explained to me like what they want from the rhythm section. They're like, look, the rhythm section is the ground. And if the ground is out in front of me and the ground is really solid and sturdy, I can do anything I want. I can run, I can jump, I can dance, I can play. If the ground is soft and muddy or it's only behind me, all I can do is carefully plod through the tune.
The structures that are in place within, old-time music, blues music, traditional blues music, bluegrass, even, 20s, 30s jazz. A lot of times when you sit in on a group like that, they'll say, okay, we're doing this song, we're doing it with this progression, we're doing it with this chords. And when someone says A, A, B, B, that might mean, okay, there are two parts, an A part and a B part. We're going to play the first part or the A part twice, second part, the B part twice. So it's not, I don't think of it as much as setting limitations as rather giving you a little roadmap of, hey, here's what we're about to do and here's how you can be a part of it like that. Most traditional music scenes, jams, communities are super welcoming, especially to young people. I think I was 10, so this would have been a year into playing banjo as a 10-year-old. I was at a music event and there was a group of people whom I didn't know later found out were, legends, very experienced, seasoned musicians, and they saw me walking by with a banjo case and insisted that I sit down and play with them and sing something. And initially I was kind of, I was a little mortified. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm gonna have to do this. But as soon as I did, it was incredible. It showed me I can sit down and interact with people I don't know.
The gym we go to, the older people always like helping the younger people. So like sometimes I pick a person and they like pick me too. And so they put their fingers next to me so I can see their fingers really well. Usually in a jam we play at like a bunch of times, so like people who don't know it can like figure it out. Like, cause like if you only play it like twice, then like the people might only like figure it out a little bit, and they don't have time to like practice it a bunch.
Dancers within old-time music can do a lot. They not only can lift up the music in the way that they are, oftentimes dancing on the front of the beat. It's not just playing right in the middle of the beat. A lot of times there'll be what's often called drive, which is where there's a little bit of a push to the beat, where the emphasis is going to be right on the front of the beat that keeps the music chugging and moving along, keeps it high energy. A lot of times dancers have a lot to do with that.
Most old-time music is played in 4/4 time. It's got 4 beats to the measure and 4 notes to the beat. And if I'm dancing, I always get in rhythm with the band. You just move your feet and legs in time with the music, and you do what feels good to you based on the music that you hear. The music pretty much tells you what to do.
Well, you're like tapping along to like the strong and soft beat. So like if you have like a strong beat, you might do like a scuff or something, and you would have like a strong beat on that note, and it kind of like follows the melody a little bit. And my favorite part is the end of a tune where you have like a tag. It's like a shave and a haircut, 2-bit, and the dancers were always like 2-bit, and they'll stomp extra hard on like the very last 2 beats, which I think is super fun, and I love doing that. So
there's no shame in learning using the resources that you have available where you are. And if that is watching YouTube videos and learning from those, go for it. If that's the resource you have, use it. You don't have to be sitting at the knee of an elder, on a front porch somewhere in Appalachia to be able to learn this music. It's okay to learn it online, and that will eventually unfold into connecting with people in person in it also.